Okay, this is Ohio State Grange Legislative Director Margaret Ann Rule,
And this is Sue Roy, President of the Ohio State Grange.
and we are here for the Buckeye Patrons Pulse podcast. We are here to talk about some new items. And what's new out there is 988. You know about 911. When you need an emergency, you call that. So, what's 988?
Well, 988 was developed to be like 911. In the past, and this is for mental health crisis and mental health help. We've had a lot of 877, 1-800 numbers, and there's plenty of those. But what was happening is people get put on hold, or there's no answer, or you've got to leave a message and someone will call you back, and they may or may not. And it just isn't and wasn't working. So they developed this 988, and it's nationwide, and they've got trained mental health counselors that you can call and get help. And I think it's a really good thing right now.
We just have to teach our kids and our adults that there is a new number. You don't have to do the whole gamut of 10 numbers when you're typing. That's showing my age, isn't it? when you're putting it in your phone to call if you feel you need some help or assistance, or if you have a loved one that's having some problems. It just makes it a lot easier to dial 988.
And you can text as well.
Oh, good.
You can text 988 as well and send it out to the counselors.
So they'll be able to answer you via text also?
Yes. And if you aren't the person having the mental crisis, you can tell them what's happening and what's going on. It'll happen a lot quicker than even if you were called 911 and were getting the information to someone to come to help you. I think it'd be quicker to dial the 988 for a mental health crisis. So, with all the stuff going on, I think it's a really good thing that it's passed. And
so if you dial 988 and they feel that you really should call an emergency, the counselor will tell you to call 911?
Well, I'm not sure. Because it's so new. It just started the 16th of July. So that's, 4 days ago? So I don't know. They could transfer you for all I know. I just know that it's a nationwide thing.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if you're calling 988 in Ohio that you're going to get someone in Ohio. I don't know that either. But, that's all I know is what I read in here.
Okay.
So.
Well, part of the reason we brought this up is because we're having a lot of these gun shootings that we're hearing about are mental health related individuals, correct?
Yes.
And we wanted to talk a little bit about some gun laws that are being talked about or introduced or something.
Yeah, and the Grange is a bipartisan. We are really kind of should be nonpartisan, but the bipartisan group, they just passed a gun bill, and I think it was in this June, and so there's been a lot of things. When the pandemic happened, there were a lot of people who were isolated, and that caused a lot of mental health issues with adults and children. And then we've had the gun shootings, and this all is stemmed, I think, from being isolated, but I'm the doctor, so.
Me neither.
Dr. Bob. But it's something that...
Dr. Sue.
Dr. Sue, yes. And with the bipartisan gun bill passing, it was June 24th, and the Congress passed it. And there's a lot of challenges related to gun violence. It says it's one of the first significant bills passed to address gun violence in decades, which comes as a result of serious compromise efforts made by a group of Democrat and Republican senators. And, we had gun legislation. Do you remember when Reagan was shot?
Yes.
And
unfortunately, I was
yeah.
very young, though.
Yeah. Well, that was some of the first gun legislation that was passed, and it was the Brady bill, because one of his associates there, Mr. Brady, he was injured seriously. I think he was in a wheelchair. The rest of his life, I can't remember. And that was some of the first. There's always been gun laws associated with hunting, but never associated with someone getting shot until it started then. And they voted in this gun bill $750 million in funding to help states create and operate crisis intervention programs, which can range from red flag laws, and that is laws which allow authorities to temporarily confiscate guns from individuals who are deemed to pose an imminent threat to themselves or others, with like I say, the mental health issues.
But not all states have that red flag law.
No.
And I know Ohio's one of them that does not.
Yeah. Well, I think it didn't pass because they were afraid that people would use it indiscriminately and not the way it was planned to be used.
Okay.
And they were going to remove guns from people who really weren't problematic, but your neighbor doesn't care for you, so that's what's going to happen. So I think that's why it didn't pass in Ohio.
What else do they have in there?
Well, we end the boyfriend loophole.
The what?
The boyfriend loophole.
What is that?
Well, the boyfriend loophole, which had allowed individuals convicted of domestic violence crimes against intimate partners who they did not live with or be married to or have children with to own guns. So now that loophole is closed. If you are a violent offender of domestic violence, you can't own a gun. So that stopped that, because there was a lot of crime being committed from this domestic violence with guns. So, also they increased the requirements for gun sellers to register as federally licensed firearm dealers. So when you go to a gun show, you need to have a permit to sell, federal permit.
Okay.
They also have more stringent reviews of people aged 18 to 21 when purchasing guns. So some people might find that not quite right, but they have found a lot of the school shootings, the people were under 25.
Right.
So,
but a lot of those that I remember reading about, they didn't own the gun. They got it from their parent or an older person.
Well, yes. And that is what's called a straw purchase.
Oh, that's right.
And so they have strengthened the federal laws against gun trafficking and straw purchases. And a straw purchase is where if you've committed a crime or felony and if you're out on probation, you can't own a gun. Any kind of gun. You can't even have a gun for hunting. So somebody buys it and gives it to you. And there are so many instances. I'm from Westerville, and we had 2 police officers killed in the line of duty by a man who had gotten out of prison, and his friend bought a gun for him and killed both of the officers. So not only does the man who committed the crime, but the person who bought the gun serves the same amount of time. And that's the way it goes.
That's right.
So be
careful who you buy a gun for.
That's right. What else here? Oh, so this increased funding for mental health programs is part of the 988 thing and school security. So, all this started with the gun rights case in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association Incorporated versus Bruin. And the court ruled that states did not have the right to deny law-abiding citizens the right to carry weapons outside the home for ordinary self-defense, meaning that states must now allow some form of concealed carry permit without restrictions. So in Ohio, you don't have to have a concealed carry license anymore.
That's right. I had one and mine expired, and I wondered why they didn't notify me that I needed to renew my license, and this is why.
Yeah.
I don't need the license
Yeah.
to carry.
Yeah. So, these are all new things that are going on, and it'll take a while for people to get used to these new laws. And there will be some misunderstanding, I'm sure, of the way things are. There have been people who've called the police because they see someone with a gun, and so they call the police. Well, that really, unless you know that that person is really a criminal, anybody can do that. So, anyway.
But if you're unsure, we do recommend that you call the police.
Yeah, yes, very much so.
Okay.
Anything else we want to talk about today?
Nope. You want to give a thought for this session?
Why, yes, I do. This gets away from the mental health. And, like a welcome summer rain, humor may suddenly cleanse and cool the earth, the air, and you.
Very good. Well, this is Margaret Ann Rule, State Grange Legislative Director.
And this is Sue Roy, President of the Ohio State Grange.
And we'll catch you another time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.